sports. It's in the game.
Oh my goodness, that is going to be so weird for the first couple of weeks or so. EA Sports is back on the Formula 1 gaming series since 2002. Well, hello guys and gals of the internet. I'm Mick Schumacher for YouTube at Twitch TV, and it is day one of Formula 1 2021. Now, I'd like to reiterate, as in the title of this video, this is Deluxe edition of the game, which released on the 13th. It actually was two different released as two different editions. Whether you got if you got the standard, it got out on the 16th, and if you got the deluxe, it was on the 13th. It was a bit confusing at first, and I was like, hang on, what edition do we pre-order here to get the early release of the game? And it was actually the deluxe edition was kind of separate. I think it was kind of it just felt different. It probably wasn't that much different, but it just felt different this time around. But we did find it, and this is deluxe edition game. So this initial video will be released on will be recorded on day one of the game, and of course we're going to be Mick Schumacher like we have been for the last 2 years. We're going to do the first race I'm doing with Mick Schumacher. So as this is the deluxe edition of the game, the first performance patch, which is kind of tradition to Formula 1 games from Codemasters, has not obviously been released yet, and neither has the new tracks Imola, Portimao or Jeddah, which are part of a 2021 race calendar in real life. As you saw there, they will be released at a later date. Now, I was a bit like at first as to why, because you know you're essentially releasing an incomplete game. But when you think about it, I think the changes to the calendar with Portimao, Jeddah and Imola, I think they were added during the season at a time where Codemasters couldn't bring them in for the release of the game. So what they're going to do is release them as a free update later in time. I'm pretty much expecting it to be Imola first, Portimao afterwards, and then Jeddah last, because with Jeddah it's a brand new circuit in Saudi Arabia. So I'm assuming we've had a virtual lap from somewhere come out. I think we've had a virtual kind of lap, but no one really knows what it's going to actually look like, and Codemasters want to probably get it as realistic as possible. They have to lose, what is it called, laser tracking with the track or something like that. So I'm most likely expecting rather, the Saudi Arabia track to probably be out at the end of the year, and Imola to be the first track released. I'm not going to sure if they're going to release them all at once or separately, but I would say Imola would come out first, because I'm assuming they'll already have the knowledge of that track most likely, because it was in F1 2013. But a lot has changed since then from a technological standpoint, so that might take a bit longer. Portimao will be second, and Saudi Arabia will definitely come out last, and maybe at the end of the season. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. So I'm probably going to hold off on doing a season somewhere until those tracks are added, because I like to race with the full experience from the calendar. I may make exception for maybe Co-op Championship. Timelane is really looking forward to doing that, so we're probably going to just do that from the word go and see what we can do. That most likely will be on stream. I don't think I'll record that, because it won't be that entertaining, because you'll be just seeing me, because I very much doubt Timelane will be recording it. She'll be probably using all the assists and everything. She's experienced at this game, but she still needs some help from the assists to get around the track. Whereas I'm pretty much a veteran to the point where most of the assists are off. I think I still have the gearbox is automatic and maybe the corner line on, but Timelane needs a little bit more help. Obviously, considering everything Timelane goes through, I guess, if that's the right word. So we'll be doing that probably on stream most likely, or at least I will. I'll probably do an initial stream of it to kind of show you guys what's going on. And I haven't streamed for a while, and I rarely have ever streamed a sports game, so that could be quite fun. But the one thing I will be recording for this game is the Breaking Point story, which is like an actual full-fledged story this time. They had this kind of in F1 2019, but it was only like, say, three specific events. I think this one's a more full-fledged story where you play F1 rookie Aiden Jackson. And what is cool is if you actually pre-order the deluxe edition of the game and you own it, you actually get the Breaking Point characters to pick as race models, as it were. Now, I've skipped that initial part with picking a car and a race model and all that. I've skipped that for the sake of time, because if I included all of that, this video would have been an hour long, and I don't think we want to wait an hour just to get into the action. So I've kind of skipped that initial part. So yeah, Breaking Point will definitely be a kind of recorded experience, as it were, and it'll actually be probably live com, I would have thought. I think I'll probably do it in live com, so you'll actually get my more initial kind of feeling with the Breaking Point character, which is a first for F1 games, because I generally do F1 footage in post-com and add the commentary later, but I'll probably do Breaking Point live com, because I'm assuming that Breaking Point will not be like 50% races, for example. They'll probably pick out parts of the race or specific parts of the story, and if they have a race start, they'll probably throw you in a 25% race, which won't take as long. So I can't wait. I'm actually quite excited for that. I think it was a nice touch there on the game calendar. As you can see, the 3 tracks are missing. Nice touch that they added the Chinese Grand Prix there, even though it wasn't really officially on the calendar. So I think by the time the new tracks come out, there'll actually be 24 circuits to choose from. But I'm assuming if you play in Championship mode, for example, the Chinese Grand Prix won't be part of the calendar, I would have thought. I'm assuming that the reason they've put it there is because it's probably going to be a part of Breaking Point, because Breaking Point is a storyline from 2019 to 2021. So I'm assuming that if you start out at Racing Point, that'll actually turn into Aston Martin for the 2021 season, which would be pretty neat. That's a pretty cool idea there from Codemasters. Nice attention to detail there, I really like that. This is on the PlayStation 5 version. As I stated in my previous video with Mick Schumacher on F1 2020, I bought the PlayStation 5 version simply to play with Time Lady on ease of use. She is, I would say, still more predominantly a console gamer, I would assume. It's just easier for her. Like I said earlier with the assist, it's easier for her to do than be on the PC. She has a designated kind of time area for PC usage and a designated time for console usage every time else. So I thought just to jump straight in, I'd buy the PS5 version as well. I probably will get the PC version at a later date to complete my collection, and when we eventually get to F1 2021 in the storyline, I'll probably play the PC version of the game when I eventually own it. I did have a cool idea for the 2021 season, but I think that would rather... Actually, I've just thought of a cool idea I could do, actually. That has just given me a very good thought. I've just thought to the end of this video, and that has actually given me a really good idea to do for the 2021 season. I'll give it some thought. We're not there yet, but I've just had something really cool come into my head at this very moment. So, if this works out, that could be really fucking cool how I could do this. Of course, the Deluxe Edition, I've bought it on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, sorry. So if I don't get to buy the Deluxe Edition on the PC version that includes the things I want for that, like the race models for Aiden Jackson, Devin Butler, and Casper Ackerman, who are part of the Breaking Point story, then I'll just do it on the PS5 version. But I just thought this really cool idea relating to what else is in the game. But I'll leave it as a surprise for now because I've got to kind of get through 2021. I'm not going to rush the storyline, as I said, but what is just coming to my head that I could do right now could be fucking awesome. It could be awesome. But we'll have to see how it works. I've got plenty of time to work out the kinks and see how it's going to work, and if it works out initially, yeah, that could be fucking sweet. Dude, I just thought of the greatest idea for what we do in the F1 2021 storyline. I've just thought of the greatest thing. That is freaking neat. So yeah, all the 2021 team and driver lineups. So obviously the rookies: Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, Kimi Raikkonen here. I was actually really impressed with Kimi Raikkonen's face model. It seems to me, as we go through the driver lineups, that the face models have been made a little bit better and more refined. Kimi Raikkonen actually looks like kind of old. You know, you can kind of see his age now because he's obviously in his 40s, Kimi Raikkonen, and they've made it look really good, I would say. They did Mick Schumacher dirty at Haas. I mean, look at this. I don't... Why? Mick Schumacher is... Why is he... Obviously, it makes sense. We know, like I said in the last video, we know why Nikita Mazepin is at Haas and the situation surrounding it and why. But they did Mick dirty there. I mean, why is he not the lead driver? He's been the lead driver over the course of the season by some wide margin. But I guess I can understand that considering what could be happening in the future with Haas as well. And finally, Williams, we have George Russell. Put this kid in a Mercedes. Stop sleeping on him because, yeah, George Russell and Lando Norris, the heir to Lewis Hamilton. Plain and simple. And I think George in particular, he needs to get out of that car. But he's doing bits in that car anyway, so it probably doesn't matter. Alright, so Mick Schumacher we're going to be for this race, as for the last two seasons. I could not find the starting point, season starting point mode, but then I found it was actually in career mode, the real season start, which is pretty cool. You can pick any point from the season and play career mode from that point instead of doing it from the beginning. So that's a really cool thing there, and I may even incorporate that in the storyline. I don't know, but like I said, I'm thinking of it, and it looks freaking awesome in my head right now when I'm thinking of that. So we'll have to wait and see. But here we go then. Just the initial settings. I'm gonna go for. Did I go for 85 or did I bring that down slightly? I might have brought it down to 80 because initially when the game comes out, the AI are kind of really fast. The thing I've learned over the last 2 years is the AI are somewhat like unpredictably fast. They've been very fast on the initial release of the game. So I brought that down to 80 just a little bit. Obviously when the performance patch comes in, that'll eventually work out. And we can probably put that back up to 85. And a nice cool thing here, you can have an increased frequency of the safety car. I'm just going to leave everything on pretty much standard for this first race. And as you saw, we're going to go with the British Grand Prix, which is this weekend. This weekend is the British Grand Prix, and we're actually going to have our first taste of the sprint format. I'm going to hold off judgment on the sprint format, but my initial feeling is I don't think it's really going to change much. You know, the front runners are going to be at the front, barring failures or first lap incidents, which is not rare. They're quite a common occurrence at times, but there can be some races that are a bit of a drag. But yeah, I'm not really sure. We'll have to see. We'll have to see at the end of the first sprint race when they do that. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be a thing in the game, and I can understand that because I think the sprint race format is sort of a trial for the 2021 F1 season. I think it's sort of a trial rather than an official rule for the moment. So I think that's why it's not in the game right now. So we fast forwarded past about the halfway point of the session, so we've got 15 minutes. I'm just going to go for a couple of laps. I'm not really expecting anything in outright pace here. I'm not expecting anything nuts like points finish because it's Haas. And if the cars, I don't know if the cars in Grand Prix are realistic or not in terms of performance. I'm not really sure. I think they're kind of like realistic in some way, like what's it called, like realistic performance or something like that. So I'm assuming that'll be the case here, but I guess we'll see. And that's just so cool to look at. Mick Schumacher the Schumacher is back in an F1 car for the first time since 2013, and for the first time officially since 2012, with the great Michael Schumacher was last in an F1 car. So yeah, check this out, guys. That's just so cool. I'm driving as a Schumacher again, the first time in 7 years or 8 years now, as we're in 2021. The HUD has changed slightly. They've got the position on the right, they've got the tower on the left, and they've changed that around. Now that has lap at the top, so it's pretty much what you would see in real life, actually. The one thing I wasn't keen on was the heads-up display. I wasn't really keen on that, to be honest. At first, it kind of took me a bit of getting used to, but I think generally it probably does work there when you think about it, because you have to really be mindful of your ERS usage in this game, because as you may have noticed, there's no rich mix in the fuel anymore. They've taken it out because in the regulations for the real life 2021 season, magic mode, as they call it, has been taken out. So that's rich mix in the game, and that's now been kind of taken out as well, which is better because it gives you less to think about. So all you really need to think about is your ERS usage, but you need to be mindful of that as well. And there we go. So first lap on the board, and we are P16. I will take that. I will initially take that. We are in a Haas, don't forget. So P16 ahead of Russell Giovinazzi is actually really impressive considering Haas. So I will definitely take that. Charles Leclerc there in P15. I mean, it's only practice, but that's alarming for Ferrari fans with Charles Leclerc down there in P15. That's pretty much last season for.
It's time to remind ourselves of our
for last season for Ferrari. So Bottas from Verstappen and Hamilton. That's surprising. A lot of people have been poking fun at Valtteri Bottas, like, why is he so highly rated in the game when he can barely keep up with Hamilton in real life? The ratings have once again caused hoopla in the F1 community, which makes that was always going to happen, I guess. I'm pretty pleased with Mick Schumacher being a 76. I think that's about right. He's obviously coming through as the Formula 2 champion. So I think they've pretty much done Schumacher all right there. I'll take that. So 14 for Carlos Sainz as well. Ferrari having a poor practice session, really. Schumacher ahead of both Williams, Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. And yeah, that's pretty much to be expected. I guess the big surprise is Nikita Mazepin there ahead of Latifi. Latifi's at a bit of a mare, it looks like, but comfortably clear of Mazepin as well. We are, which is probably that's kind of like the what's the word? It's kind of like the objective. And obviously, you'll also know they're on the PS5 because of loading times are significantly quicker. And I thought this was cool. It kind of gives you like a screen to look at, like to go to the next session. You can easily skip sessions from here, I think. I haven't really done as such, but I'm kind of wondering what I went back into the options there for. I'm not really sure why, but that's a pretty cool new screen they've got there. So that's pretty neat. I don't think it's really going to do much, but it kind of gives you an overview of what you're using if you forget, and it could be something to do with career mode as well. It looks so good. It's so good to see Schumacher in this game. I've waited this for so long, basically for that reason. So we're just going to go to the end of the qualifying lap here, because I don't think we're going to really bonkers here. Oh my god, actually P15 there. So we actually improved by one position. We actually got ahead of Raikkonen. I think I was knocked out later though in the session. I think I went down to about P17 or 16, I think. Pretty cool how it has Lewis as the fastest driver there on the left now, which is pretty much resonant to real life there.
Hello and welcome to the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone. The grandstands are packed, the cars have made their way to the grid, and we're minutes away from lights out. With good opportunities to overtake at the end of the Wellington and Hanger Straights, there's a lot of potential for close action around the 3.6 miles of the Silverstone circuit. With 18 corners and average lap speeds of around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the longest and quickest circuits on the calendar. And a warm welcome, of course, to my co-commentator here today, someone of tremendous experience and insight. It's the man himself, Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Lewis Hamilton.
Well, it was a really impressive lap in qualifying to get pole position, but are they going to be able to hold on to the lead into the first corner with so many quick starters around them? And of course, it's looking very close here today. A lot's going to be riding on those first few corners, and then the question becomes who can manage their tyres so they're in a better position to push hard towards the end.
So let's take a look at the grid then for today's British Grand Prix in 2021. The crowd roared when Lewis Hamilton finally took pole position. It's been his first for a while, but Max Verstappen, as to be expected, is right on his tail for the two main championship contenders on the front row. Valtteri Bottas is followed by Sergio Perez. Both McLarens take row 3, with Lando Norris getting ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Much better day Leclerc compared to yesterday, as he went from 7th on the grid, Vettel's 8th, followed by Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll, with a Noah's Ark effect on the next two rows there. Fernando Alonso getting into P11 ahead of Pierre Gasly. Rookie Yuki Tsunoda takes 13th ahead of Esteban Ocon. That's a great effort from him there. Kimi Raikkonen, the last of the Q2 finishes. Mick Schumacher just missing out in P16. Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell on the 17th and 18th. But George Russell still maintains a 100% teammate ranking qualifying, with Nikita Mazepin and Latifi on the back row.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Okay, so here we are, sitting on the grid for the British Grand Prix of 2021 in P16. A great effort for Haas, considering obviously Haas have already had their best result of the season by this point in real life, with P15 for Mick Schumacher at the French Grand Prix. Unfortunately, he didn't take part in it after crashing the car at the end of the session. But that is their second best position of the season. So Lewis Hamilton on pole may be surprising for the game, but to be fair, as I said earlier, the performance patch has not been come through yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the release of the game for everyone else on Friday, or whether it's going to be a later in time thing like it was last year. I think it was released much later, the first performance patch, and everyone kicked up a fuss about it being so late. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a immediate thing from Friday, or they'll probably just do it later. They'll maybe do it later, and maybe that's when we'll probably see the first of the new tracks. Maybe I'll have to see. We haven't got really Codemasters haven't really had given us a window of when to expect updates. That's always been the case. They've never really given us like a window to expect updates on what they're doing, which is rather weird, I guess. But you never know. It's been around the same time every year. I think last year, of course, was a bit later for the first performance patch. But yeah, I think more windows and clarity would just be nice, I guess, when we expect. But when they're coming out, you know, there's always a blog post where you can catch up on everything anyway. So I guess that's just what they do. But anyway, round the Maggots and Beckett session, which is obviously round the back of the track with the recent Silverstone layout that we've used since 2010. George Russell there, continuing his 100% qualifying record against his teammate, even though he's down in P18. So it's definitely, the performance patch definitely hasn't hit us yet. I think the initial release of the game is pre-season testing. I think that's what the performance car is based on. So Haas really is still standard quo down in 16th and 19th with Mazepin. But George Russell is obviously a little bit lower than probably to be expected. Lewis Hamilton on pole ahead of Max Verstappen. But anything can happen in the race. Ocon's Alpine probably needs to be a little bit higher, considering Fernando Alonso was 18th. But maybe that could be due with the driver ratings as well. Don't forget, drivers have ratings since last year as well. So here we are lining up, and I think we're about ready to go. So here come the 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. It's lights out, and away we go. And Schumacher seems to get a great initial start. He does, and he passed Raikkonen. So in typical Mick Schumacher fashion, he gets a great start and gets ahead of Raikkonen almost immediately, taps Ocon just slightly. We got a warning for that, which was rather unfortunate, but we will bear with and we'll keep going. But what a great start by Mick Schumacher. So that mirrors real life, especially last year in Formula 2. Mick Schumacher was known for having great starts in the latter part of the season. He's had a couple of good starts this season as well. I think Austria, last time out or the time before in the double Austrian weekends, I think that was the case. I think he got like a great start and then fell back because the Haas is unfortunately not the greatest of cars for this season. No upgrades going on the car in real life throughout the season, but to be fair, the Haas doesn't actually feel like an absolute boat. It actually feels rather planted to the ground. It's obviously slow in terms of pace, but in terms of drivability, it doesn't really feel too bad. Now that may be because we're in Grand Prix mode and not in career mode. Maybe if you enter it in career mode, maybe it would feel different. Being the least performance car like on the grid, it's probably going to be the bottom team on the grid in the R&D chart, as it were. That's what the word I was looking for earlier. But that's a great start to P15 ahead of Raikkonen, who's been passed by Giovinazzi as well. And we're still chasing Esteban Ocon, who seems to be making no inroads on Pierre Gasly, up there in P13 as the leaders come round to complete the first lap. I have no idea who's leading this race because I'm obviously more focused on myself, because you can't really see what the leads are doing unless you go into the replay cameras. We're in a little bit live there, and I believe that's Luffield, which is where I was sitting as a British Grand Prix attendee in 2015. I think we have gone wide, and I'm looking to see where Giovinazzi is. He's going to go down the inside of Compton. It's going to be a brave move. I give him the space just in case he does go down there. There he goes, and it's a great move by Giovinazzi. Very brave, but obviously in these cars, with the turning ability they have, you can obviously do that. We're going to try and attack back into the end of the circuit, and we've got ahead of Giovinazzi, but he's going to hold it out on the exit. We're going to try and hold it round the outside of the final corner. Giovinazzi hits the brakes, and we take 2 wheels off the track, and we're getting a track limit warning for that. I think we were ahead of Giovinazzi before we made that violation, so I think the game didn't give us a penalty for doing that, which is probably that probably makes sense, because I think we would have had a penalty if we passed him off the track in that instance, but I don't think we did. Leaders making their pit stops. Here comes Raikkonen. Giovinazzi was actually known to have a problem. Raikkonen has DRS and ERS and passes us. We can give it a little tap there on the right rear. No real harm done as we come into the pits. Don't forget the new damage model this year, guys. You can actually damage the floor of the car and the side pods of the car now. That are actually additional things you can do damage with. I don't think we've had such problems in this one. I don't think that really gave us any issues with that tap with Raikkonen as we come into the pits. One of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. You actually go into auto drive mode coming into the pits. That's not a pit assist. That's been there for years. But obviously you have that so much like earlier than most of our pit lanes. Status quo coming in and out of the pits behind Raikkonen ahead of Russell. I guess P15 is probably the best we can really hope for here, being in a Haas car, of course. But like I said, it felt okay. It didn't feel terrible to drive. It was just obviously much slower compared to the front-running cars, of course, which makes sense. And here we are on lap 16, and Schumacher's been kind of reeling in Raikkonen a little bit. Can we have a pass here? Nikita Mazepin up there in P18. He's probably got ahead of Giovinazzi because he had car issues during the race, which is why Raikkonen is ahead of us right now. As we take to the inside with DRS and ERS down the straight, we're going to hold it in around the inside, and Schumacher is going to pass an Alfa Romeo. And Mick Schumacher, much like in real life, doing absolute bits up there in P15, passing Alfa Romeos. Valtteri Bottas wins the race. Just a 25% race here, guys. Nice and short. Didn't want it to be too long. It's only an initial race of the game, so we just stuck with 25% distance. Carlos Sainz down in P14. The Ferrari's having an absolute mare this weekend. Charles Leclerc did wonders to get into the top 10, but Ferrari just not looking great. Valtteri Bottas wins driver of the day and the Grand Prix, which is surprising, I think. I don't think we had any retirements, but in any case, Valtteri Bottas takes his traditional 1-2 wins of the season and then really doesn't do anything else compared to Lewis Hamilton, because Hamilton is the GOAT for a reason. But But you know, we can be a little harsh on Bottas at times, but let's remember he's teammated with the GOAT, Lewis Hamilton. So as much as that it pains me to say that, being a Michael Schumacher fan, but them's the truth. So pretty much the same status quo stuff, unfortunately, with the podium scenes. It'll be very interesting to see what EA does with F1 2022, but as we know, Codemasters, a lot of the employees left, I think there was a tweet saying that Codemasters have, most of the Codemasters team have either been let go or decided to go themselves. I'm not sure, so I don't know what that means for F1 2022, but obviously that's going to be the first game EA has on a, you know, this is our game basis. Cautious, but you know, let's see what they can do, but let's hold caution, considering EA's business with sports games, not just in the past, but in the present, and probably in the future as well. So, Bottas, who started third on the grid, so for him to win the race, that's actually impressive. Max Verstappen P3, let's see, anyone with standouts here. Vettel in P7, Leclerc actually drops to P8, but still manages to score points there. It's Sainz that has the pole one this year. Tsunoda's gone up 2 places to 11th. Unfortunately, he misses out on points. He actually got ahead. No, he didn't. He didn't pass Alonso. That's Stroll I was looking at. Ocon up into P12 in the end, ahead of Gasly, Sainz, and ourselves in P15. And then, as you were afterwards, Raikkonen. I think it was it Mazepin or Russell? It was Russell, Mazepin, Giovinazzi, Latifi. So Giovinazzi, despite his car problems, finished ahead of Latifi, who DNF'd. I actually forgot about that completely. So one last couple of things here is the replay mode. Now this is really sweet because in the replays in the game, they don't have the positional tower, but look, there's the positional tower. For actual race replays, we're actually doing highlights at the moment, but that's really neat. They finally added the positional tower to actual replays where you're like away from online, because in online they have it if you're spectating, but now you have replays and you have the position tower on the left there. Kind of unfortunate that it has replay. There's no way really to get rid of that. Pressing like triangle, you can actually have different like versions of it, but unfortunately replay is there, probably to show that it's a replay, obviously. Pretty cool there. They have the lap transition as well. I decided to see what it was for full replay, and it's the same. So, and it even has the interval board. So yeah, pretty neat touch from Codemasters. Pretty neat touch. Next will be Breaking Point. So I will leave with that, and I will see you then. As always, guys, like, comment, video, subscribe, all the good stuff. Social media is down in the description. I'm Mr. Chaos. I'm signing off. Peace out. Stay safe, guys. And stay awesome.